Hi everyone, Sudor Railway Studios here, and welcome to another Thomas and Friends episode review. So, a while ago, I did a poll asking you guys which Duncan episode you wanted me to review, and Duncan and the Old Mine clearly got the most votes, so I decided I might as well review this episode because it got the most votes. Other options were Duncan, the Runaway Elephant, and Duncan and the Hot Air Balloon, in case you were wondering. But yeah, Duncan and the Old Mine got the most votes, so there we are. So, what I'm going to do is similar to my reviews of Big Strong Henry and Rusty to the Rescue. I'm going to go over what I like about the episode, what I don't particularly like much about the episode, my personal history with it, and then whether or not I'd recommend it at the end. So sit back, relax, and I hope you all enjoy. Okay, so for starters, I really like how this episode handles the dynamic between Duncan and Rusty. Like, if I'm gonna be honest, I feel like Duncan and Rusty's dynamic is possibly the most underrated dynamic in the whole show, but in my personal opinion, that is. Like, ever since Rock and Roll, I could tell that these two have such a good friendship, ever since Rock and Roll, and, they did sort of bring it back in Trusty Rusty, but obviously, Duncan was kind of out of character in that episode by not trusting Rusty about the bridge. So I guess it probably would have made sense if one was to place Trusty Rusty, say, in Season 4, for example, because I feel like that would probably have made more sense. But I do know the Sudrian A0 plans to rewrite Trusty Rusty in his series, but with Sir Handel in Duncan's place, so I'll look forward to that one, because I'm actually voicing Duncan in that episode, along with Mr. Percival, so there we are. But anyway, back to the episode. So, like I said, Duncan and Rusty's dynamic I personally find the most underrated dynamic in the show, and I love the way it's handled here. Like Duncan doesn't even say any rude remarks to Rusty when he says he can't have an adventure, he just pretends to accept it, really, I guess. Another thing I really like about this episode is, of course, the model work. Like, that shot, all the shots of Duncan when he gets trapped in the mine, they all look really, really intimidating and really, well, not really intimidating, but very eerie, I guess is the better word. So, and I also can't get enough of I also like how eerie Robert Hartshorn's music is in those scenes as well. Slightly. I mean, it's nowhere near as eerie as it was in, like, Halloween, for example, the Season 8 episode, but I do think it's a good music score in this episode as well. And of course there's Duncan's character, like the way it gets handled. Personally, I always really enjoyed how Duncan was written in the Hit era. Like, I think it goes without saying he's the main narrow gauge engine that Hit Entertainment didn't completely destroy the character of. Like, he's the one that they really didn't destroy. Shame that the same can't be said for Skarloey and Rheneas, but there we are. But yeah, Duncan, I can tell that the writers had a lot of fun writing for Duncan in the Hit era, so I think that's probably why he got at least one lead role in each season of the Hit era. But yeah, I do love how his character got handled in all these episodes. Like, I don't really know why, but for some reason it reminds me of Spud from Bob the Builder in some areas. Like Spud's more helpful side, and also... But there's also a hint of his mischievous side in Duncan's Bluff as well. So, there we are. The other thing I can safely say I do also enjoy is both narrations of this episode, both English narrations. Michael Angelis, of course, is the one I prefer, because, I mean, he's my favourite narrator of all time, so of course I prefer him over Michael Brandon somewhat, but I will admit, I've never been the hugest fan of Michael Brandon as a narrator. Like, I think as a narrator, he's fine, but I've never been that big of a fan of most of his character voices. Particularly ones like Oliver. Like, I can't stand his Oliver voice, but his Duncan voice, I definitely think is one of his better voices, along with Diesel and possibly Salty as well. And I also really like the fact that he didn't do the really gruff, gravelly voice for Rusty that he did in Season 7 and then later on in the Hit era. But I think it's because that and Tuneful Toots in his original dubs of the episode, he accidentally referred to Rusty as female, so... Yeah, I think we all know a couple of female robots that are called Rusty, now. And I'm not just talking about Rusty Rose, I'm also talking about Rusty from Little Robots as well. So, yeah, so that's my opinion on Michael Brandon's narration in this episode. I don't normally listen to his narration because of his character voices kind of distract me a bit. But I think in general he's an okay narrator, but he's not my favorite American one. That would probably go with I'd probably go with Alec Baldwin on that front. Yeah, sorry George Carlin fans. Anyway, now onto the things I don't really like about this episode. Honestly, I don't really think there's that much I don't like in this episode. Like, apart from my slight grudge against Michael Brandon's narration, I still think he's fine. This is one of his better narrated episodes, if you ask me. So now we'll just get onto my personal history with this episode. So, this episode, I wouldn't say I have quite as much nostalgia for as other Season 9 episodes, like, say, Thomas's Day Off, or Thomas and the Statue, or whatever. But I do still have fond memories of this episode, because whenever I watch my complete Season 9 DVD, I don't remember if I had the On Track for Adventure DVD when I was a kid, but I do know this episode was on that DVD, so... And I'd argue that this is definitely my favourite episode on that DVD, for certain. So yeah, that's my personal history with this episode. Not that much personal history with it, but I kind of have the similar thing with most Hit era episodes, if I'm honest. With the exception of a couple of Season 8 ones, because I used to watch them on Hit Entertainment Children's Favourites DVDs, like Thomas and the Tuba and Thomas Gets It Right and all that. But anyway, there we are. So, now we get to the stage where I talk about whether or not I'd recommend this episode to people. And the answer is yes, I definitely recommend this episode. It's a fantastic one, if you ask me. I can't really decide whether or not I prefer this one or Duncan's Bluff, but I still really love this episode. It's my favourite Season 9 episode, actually. I wouldn't call it my favourite Hit era episode, but it's definitely my favourite Season 9 episode. That might seem a bit odd, because Season 9 is my favourite Hit era season, but... yeah, it's definitely my favourite from Season 9, I have to say. I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. I know a lot of people would have expected Respect for Gordon to be my favourite Season 9 episode, but I do like Respect for Gordon, but at the same time, I do find it a bit overhyped. Because that's the episode that everyone chooses as their favourite Season 9 episode, so... yeah. Anyway, let me know what you thought of this review in the comments below, and what do you think of this episode? So feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.